will not comply. You're listening to the sound of freedom. It's the Charlie Kirk Show.
All right, welcome back to the Charlie Kirk Show. I'm going to tell you about Why Refi. Again, the amazing people at Why Refi. Okay, sometimes you support a company because it has a great product. Sometimes you support a company because it's run by great people and they have great values. In the case of Why Refi, you get to do both at the same time, because I will tell you, everything that we just talked about in the last segment and then on, and everything we've been living through in the last however many weeks has really shown who's going to stick by you, who's going to throw you by the wayside, candidly. And they are amazing people that have stood by this show and stood by Turning Point USA, and we're so grateful for them. Private student loan debt in the U.S. totals about $300 billion. About $45 billion of that is labeled as distressed. Why Refi refinances distressed or defaulted private student loans that others will not touch. They provide you with a custom loan payment, and that's really the key, based on your ability to pay. So they're not going to say, sorry, this is how much you owe, and this is how much it's going to be every month. If you can't afford it, they're going to work within your budget to come up with a plan that helps you get to the bottom of it and get this burden off your back so you can live in the freedom of knowing that you have financial security, okay? So it doesn't matter if you have bad credit. Do you have a co-borrower? Why Refi can get them released from the loan. You can give mom and dad a break, or mom and dad, you can have your kids give you a break. Send them to Why Refi. You can even skip a payment every 6 months up to 12 times without penalty. You don't have to ignore that mountain of student loan statements on your kitchen table anymore. Just call 888-YREFI34 or log on to yrefy.com. That is YREFY.com, YREFY.com. May not be available in all 50 states, but that's what it is. All right, so gentlemen, we got a lot to get to still. I'm glad we did that last segment, because Mikey is a fantastic human being and really deserves our backup on this. But there is news to cover, and namely, we're getting a lot of emails about this. Freedom@charliekirk.com, freedom@charliekirk.com. Send us your emails. Are we going to war with Venezuela? We're going to answer it. We're going to dive deep into it with Alex Marlow from Breitbart, and then when we welcome back radio. All right, welcome back to the Charlie Kirk Show. Andrew Colvard, executive producer of this fine show, joined by Blake Neff, another one of the producers on this show, our not-so-secret weapon, and Alex Marlow, editor-in-chief of Breitbart, also host of the Alex Marlow Show. Alex, why don't you give us a little teaser here of the show? Tell us where people can find it, what it is, what you cover.
Thank you. Yeah, we're colleagues on the Salem Podcast Network, so wherever you get your podcasts, you can get it: YouTube, Rumble, Apple, Spotify, wherever you prefer. And it's a daily news show. I also do some great interviews. I think we did a bit deep dive with Scott Pressler last week, Andy No, Senator Sheehy. It's a great place to break news, but also I give you what we're thinking about in the Breitbart newsroom every day. So we've been the leaders on the anti-establishment media for the last 15 plus years, and as strong as ever, as powerful as ever. And it's just a great place for a daily news digest, some great conversations, really efficient, don't waste anyone's time. We have a good time.
Well, before we get to this Venezuelan topic, I do think it's interesting that you were hired by Andrew Breitbart.
Yeah.
He was young and vibrant and full of verve and life, and he was a leader. And then he died.
Yeah,
and so the parallels,
and by the way, no one on Twitter accused me of killing him, which is nice, because
that's it. I mean, if you want to chime in on that, because
no,
I feel like we held you back a little bit.
It's completely outrageous, and it's sad that there's such a market for this content, because it's completely counterproductive to our shared goals of defeating the left. Is going after Mikey. It's just wild.
Well, I know, and it's funny. It occurred to me while we were talking about that. It's like, the political assassination and the martyrdom of Charlie Kirk, but it was an assassination. It was the highest profile political assassination since the 60s in this country. And what's really sad is that it's followed on the footsteps of it are the attempts by some, not by all. I don't want to overblow this. By the way, I think the amount of love and the outpouring of support for the show, for Turning Point, for Erica, for all of us that have been around this has been tremendous. Really, like, you've seen the most beautiful part of humanity. But we had a political assassination. He happened to be one of my best friends, guy we spent every day with. And so the sad part is that assassination has led to the character assassination of some of the people closest to Charlie that loved him most, that he hand selected in these roles because he trusted them. And again, I try and be generous, Blake, because
you guys are being very generous.
I do know that like we live in a certain era where we've learned to distrust the authorities, and by the way, a lot of these authorities have earned our distrust, whether it be COVID or whatever. And they do. Charlie was such a monumental figure, and this was such a public moment and such a tragedy that I know that essentially the world is grieving still, and the movement is grieving still, and people want answers and they want to get to the bottom of it. And so I'm just trying to give grace for people, and I listen, your voice is just important as mine, but there is like a combination here of understanding that people, there is the click chasers and the clout chasers, I get that, but there are people, and they message me that have legitimate questions and they have legitimate things. This is not one of them.
Yeah, what I want to emphasize is like you have a moral responsibility to think things through seriously, to use your reason. And a lot of really wild theorizing is a product of people being lazy in their thinking. And it's very easy to be lazy about things where, maybe it's not your own well-being on the line, where you're not really having to commit anything. And you'll see that a lot, where people who have normal lives and can make normal decisions in their own life will believe truly wild things about stuff that's far away from them. And I would encourage people who are buying into this truly deranged and hurtful stuff to think about that, to reasonably think. Do you really think it is remotely reasonable or plausible that Charlie's best friends, his chief of staff, the co-hosts of his show, his wife, people on his, people who he spent years with, conspired in a vast thing to have him assassinated for, underpants gnomes, weird reasoning? There's no plausible reason for any of this. And the answer is, of course, no. None of that would make sense. And that's obvious the moment you start to think about it.
Yeah, well, but here's the thing: we were there. We were at least I wasn't there the day, but when it happened. But I've been around everything that's happened since, and so we have seen it up close and personal, just seeing how traumatized everybody is, and we've been the ones in the embracing in these hugs filled with tears, and everybody's grieving and everybody's shell shocked, and so you see it up close. And so you don't have those suspicions, but the internet didn't see any of it.
And I would just ask people to remember that because of this, even if they're just asking questions, there are a lot of unwell people out there who respond to this sort of thing by sending incredibly hurtful emails or showing up outside people's homes, doing incredibly gross behavior. And some of those people are probably just generally unwell. But you have to remember, unwell people are greatly influenced by the things they hear around them. And
they're also running interference.
You don't want to whip people up.
They're running interference for the Antifa furries too, by the way. They really are.
Well, exactly.
Are they getting paid by Big Furry?
Big Furry. It's an epidemic. We'll be right back.